The Rosa Parks story you were taught in school was fake too. This was not just some woman on her way home from work. Civil rights leaders thought Parks would make a sympathetic face for their lawsuit and then told her, a longtime NAACP volunteer, to create a situation where she'd be arrested. This gets sold to the public as totally organic when actually it's play acting to create ideal conditions for a court case or scandal. The iconic photo of Parks on the bus was staged months after the incident as part of a press campaign. The white man sitting behind her in the bus photo was a journalist, which you probably didn't know.
No, I didn't. But Mama told me once, I know better, I should do better. And I always try to do what Mama says. And so we've heard from Matt Walsh, telling us something that some of us knew, but many of us didn't. Rosa Parks, all the things that I was taught in elementary school was not true. And we've been lied to. As Malcolm X said, we've been bamboozled. But we've been bamboozled by the other people that Malcolm wasn't talking about. We've been bamboozled by people who look like me. And it's time out. It's getting late in the evening, and as they used to sing, the sun is going down. Let's talk about it. It is 8:15 Cape Town time. It's hard to keep up with the dates, but it is May 21st. I greet you all in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. Before we begin, I'm going to keep my sister, Nancy Denny, in front of you and asking that you would be joining me in prayer. You can see the picture on the right. That was me who had the opportunity right after church last Sunday to go see Nancy before I left for Cape Town. You see her in the shirt that I gave her on May 3rd. She fell, broke her neck on May 5th, and suffered a very traumatic brain injury. And so would you keep my sister Nancy Denny in your prayers, and there's others as well, and if I can remember, I will make sure to talk about them at the end. Later today, I'm going to be producing episode number 25. I call this feature The Daily Reckoning, where I take a biblical concept that's been abused, misunderstood in the Christian community and try to bring some clarity. What's neat about this, I do it in less than 3 minutes. So I would encourage you to check out The Daily Reckoning. The last one I did, you can see right there on the screen, all religions lead to God. That's a false unity. And once a week, and I normally do it on Wednesdays, but because of my travel to Cape Town, I did it this past Monday where we talked about America's birth crisis. The replacement rate, the fertility rate needs to be at 2.1. And it is currently, and it's been this way for the last 40 or 50 years, at 1.6. The only thing saving America is the number of immigrants who come into our country. We're not as bad as China, Japan, and South Korea, but again, it needs to be at 2.1, and it's been a long time since we've been there. Once a week on Sundays, especially when I'm in town and I get a chance to go to church, I like to give what I call the Sunday seersucker. I call it that because that is what I was wearing when I first started doing that. And so you see me in my Ricky Bobby shirt. That's another tradition that I have. The Sunday before I leave on marathons, I typically try to wear my team shirt. And so I wore mine this past Sunday, Team Ricky Bobby. You saw Nancy in it. And there are about 10 to 15 others that are part of the Team Ricky Bobby team. So welcome to Thinking Critically from an Evangelical Worldview. You see me in my hotel. Been a busy day, been a busy couple of days. I just got back from the store, and now I'm wearing what I bought. I'll show you a little bit more and tell you a little bit more about that later. But welcome to Thinking Critically from an Evangelical Worldview. I pray that you would find my content God glorifying and man edifying. And if you did, you would join the Thinking Critically family. If you're new to the channel, you're going to see on the screen right before you that are the three theses that ground this channel. America being under the judgment of Almighty God. The Negro church has apostatized writ large. And then finally, no evangelical seeking to be faithful to the word of God can in good conscience align with the Democratic Party as presently constituted, period, full stop, and end of story. You know as well as I do, if you are attuned to what's going on, you know the Democratic platform, you know the last 6 presidential candidates. Look at the number of support, the amount of support they receive from the Negro, Black, African American. I don't care what moniker you prefer. I prefer personally Negro. But these are people who claim to follow Jesus Christ. Now, I don't have the ability to be fully functional, and so I don't have my external monitors, and so I'm going to be pretty vanilla in some of the options I could. But this would be the time that I would show you memes that talk about the abortion, talk about the marriage, talk about the gender, and then I would probably show you a meme of Ephesians 5:11, where Paul writes under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit to the church, to the believers at the churches in Ephesus. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. And so let me challenge you who will, at whatever point, watch this video. If you are if first of all, it applies to anyone. And that's why the third one is no evangelical seeking to be faithful. It's an outsized problem in the Negro community because no other ethnicity shows this kind of monolithic political thinking. So much so that Kamala Harris, where I will make the argument, is one of the most least desirable qualified candidates of recent history, if not American history, still retained 93% support from people who say they read the same Bible that I read, that follow the same Jesus that I follow, yet they chose to vote for Kamala Harris when she bragged that she officiated the first same-sex marriage. Do your research. Kamala Harris was the one who persecuted that whistleblower who videotaped the abortion clinics admitting that they were selling baby parts. And again, I think he did that illegally because in certain states you have to get the permission of those that you audio tape. And so she persecuted him. And again, the list goes on and on, starting, and these are just the last 6 Democratic candidates, starting with Bill Clinton, who says that abortion should be legal, safe, and rare, which was just a political lie to give cover, to assuage dissenters who might have been more sensitive to the pro-life movement. But now they don't even make that pretense. I've done a live stream where the congressperson, I believe from Michigan, says that they should be none of anybody's business and no longer rare. He said frequent. I wish I could remember the exact quote. But brothers and sisters, this is just one data point that I use. Look at the numbers. 79, 74, Barack Obama 95, and remember Barack ran twice, and so the first time was 95, the second time was 93. Hillary, Joe, Kamala. And so why is this important? Why is what Matt Walsh arguing important? Because if you are a Christ follower, you know the emphasis on truth. And so a passage like this, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Jesus went on to say, whom he set free is free indeed. And, it's my everlasting desire to call balls and strikes. Baseball is one of my favorite sports, if not the most favorite. Cubs have lost 5 straight, but it's still a long season. But I just like that analogy of calling balls and strikes. So if you have been to my channel before, you have seen a previous video. In fact, I have done 2 videos now. And so Jordan Wells is starting to get in Jamal Bryant territory. And so now here's the 3rd time that we're going to deal with Jordan Wells. Just pay attention to some of the verbiage he uses. He says that blacks are being played as fools. He talked about nobody criticizes the founding fathers. He said he loves the founding fathers. And brothers and sisters, Jordan Wells is nobody I want in my foxhole when the bullets start flying. He says that Matt Walsh is racist. And brothers and sisters, I can guarantee you, Jordan Wells has never met Matt Walsh. Yet he has no qualms calling him racist. And brothers and sisters, the Bible warns us about bearing false witness. The Bible warns us about being angry at our brother without cause. And so the charges that he makes are without charge. And so without further ado, let's hear from Jordan Wells.
Stand by my statement that Matt Walsh was a racist. I do not believe Martin Luther King Jr. was a communist. I do not believe Martin Luther King was an evil person. I do not believe any of the lies that have been said about Martin Luther King. Was he imperfect? Yes. Was there a lot of things to critique about the civil rights movement? Yes, there was. But I do not want to hear a white man sit on a chair and go after every one of the black heroes that I have watched their movies growing up as a kid. When I had to watch as a black kid in the hood, watch people like Rosa Parks' story, and watch people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., My Friend Martin, these movies that are inspirations to millions of black people across this country. And then we come into a conservative movement, and I have to hear one of the leaders sit here and attack every one of our heroes. We can attack the founding fathers. They never do that, though. The founding fathers, I love the founding fathers, but there was a lot of issues with our founding fathers. A lot of them had slaves. A lot of them were not very good people, but we don't see people bastardizing and attacking and tearing down the founding fathers. But why do you have to go after the civil rights movement? And I've had so many people who, when I wrote that post, reached out to me and said, this is why I'm black, but I don't want to identify with the Republican Party. This is why. What Matt Walsh is doing is hurting the conservative movement and is pushing black people. It might get him clicks. It might get him a lot of white supremacists and people who don't like black people, and some even black people who are, I don't know, being used. I don't know why black people would go along with that, but it might get him some clicks. But in reality, there's a lot of black people on the fence about the conservative movement and are just turned off and disgusted by the fact that you would go after Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, these type of people who literally, the civil rights movement was one of the greatest movements we ever had in the history of America. It launched the civil rights movement in Africa and destroyed racism there as well. And it united the country and did so many great things for our country. So it's just disgusting. I'm still a conservative because I recognize that I stand with values, but it is disgusting and I condemn it.
What's disgusting is someone pretending to be something that he's truly not. And so he said he stands for conservative values. Well, some of the conservative values is one, thinking the best of your brother. And so he calls, again, Matt Walsh a racist, and he says that blacks are on the fence. If you are on the fence and you are trying to make the argument that you don't know which way to go, and so you're reticent to join the Republican Party, and as if the Democratic Party is a viable option. And so, brothers and sisters, there's going to be no perfect party. So much so that I did not vote for Donald Trump. Yet that does not in any way imply that Kamala Harris was a viable option. And so I, in good conscience, did not vote for Donald Trump. That in no way implies that I voted for Kamala Harris. I wrote in Mike Pence. And so is the Republican Party perfect? Were the founding fathers perfect? Both. The answer is the same. Absolutely not. He's lying. People have debates about the founding fathers. I have debated and questioned and wrestled publicly with other believers for example, Jonathan Edwards, one of the greatest minds that the Encyclopedia Britannica said was the greatest mind of the 18th, 19th century. He preached the greatest sermon that's been known in American history, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. That he wrote Freedom of the Will. And so he is regarded, if you have a Mount Rushmore of Christian figures, Christian preachers, Jonathan Edwards is going to be there. And so he's making false allegations. And so to you, if you are a African-American, Negro, Black, and you're trying to pretend that you don't know which way to go, then I don't want you in my foxhole. I don't want you claiming solidarity, because how can two walk together except they be agreed? And so also he made mention about the civil rights. I'm going to be talking principally this video about Rosa Parks, and then by extension, because I have to, Martin Luther King. But I'm going to commend to you again Chad O. Jackson's 2-season docu-series called the MLK Project. You can also go to April Chapman. You can also go to Vincent Ellison. You can also Google Dr. Cal Swain. Brothers and sisters, the civil rights movement was debased, was debauchery. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing this kind of tabloid journalism commentary, but I'm going to show you one clip from a document that will come out in 2027 when the federal government will release the King files. Somehow some reporter got access, and these are audio tapes. Now, they were gathered immorally and illegally, unethically, and so they could never be, for instance, used in a court of law. But brothers and sisters, we can't unhear. And I spent 26 hours getting here. And so on the first 2 legs of the flight, I had access to Wi-Fi. And so I was watching various episodes of year 2 of the MLK Project. And so the things I heard, the things I read, I cannot unsee, I cannot unhear. And so this Jordan Wells is either knowingly or unknowingly a pawn of the evil one, because brothers and sisters, we are all about truth. We are all about calling balls. That's what I mean when I say call balls and strikes. But let's just talk first about Rosa Parks. So many Americans were taught a simplified narrative. You heard Matt Walsh, a tired seamstress, sat down on the bus one day and spontaneously change history. That's what I was fed. That's what I was told. That's what I grew up for almost 60 plus years of my life. So here's some facts. Rosa Parks was not merely tired after work. She was actively engaged in activism through the NAACP in the Montgomery, Alabama chapter. She had attended and she was well trained in matters relating to civil rights. And if you listen to Chad and Vincent, she was a Marxist. Her act of resistance occurred within a broader struggle against segregation. Here's the question I want to leave you with. Did the schools tell the whole story or a simplified version? You see, the Bible commands me to prove all things, hold fast to what is good. Some version says cling to what is good, abhor what is evil. And so, brothers and sisters, lying is evil. Lying in a way to manipulate people and to control the narrative, that's evil. There are ethical, and we see those situations within Scripture. We see Rahab. We see the Israelite woman lying, but they were lying to protect, lying to safeguard. These people were lying to manipulate us. Prove all things, but only hold fast to what is good. So the issue is not whether Rosa Parks matters. I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade per se. The issue whether history has been sanitized and oversimplified. She served as a secretary for the local. In fact, both her and her husband were involved in activism. But did you know there was an earlier case that existed? There was an individual by the name of Claudette Colvin. She refused to give up her seats just months earlier, but she wasn't the right case. In fact, I think there was another case, but the young girl was in trouble with the law, and the NAACP decided not to use her. But Rosa Parks, especially with the story that they tell about how she worked hard all that day and she was tired, and she was like, I think she even said, I was tired and I refused to move. It was all a lie. It was orchestrated. Go back to what Matt Walsh says, that iconic picture. Months later, the white gentleman behind Rosa Parks, journalists, off stage, to create and control a narrative. Now, I wanted to say it at the beginning, but sometimes you forget in the midst of things. This video will be used against me as evidence that I hate black people, that I hate the black church, but I'm just trying to call balls and strikes. I'm just trying to do what the scripture tells me, to cling to what is good and to abhor what is evil. And so civil rights organizers, they often sought plaintiffs and movements capable of advancing the legal and the cultural resistance. Now, this does not mean the event was fake, but it does mean this: history may have, and I think has been, simplified into a mythology. So was Rosa Parks courageous because she acted randomly? We've been manipulated. I think she acted intentionally. A mature understanding, a critical way of looking at the world tells us that they're going to include heroes, planning, complexity, uncomfortable truths. So the real danger is not learning fuller history. The danger is teaching half-truths, oversimplifications, and historical mythology. So can history both be true and more complicated than we were taught? Again, Romans 8:32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth should make you free. I'm seeking to be free. I'm seeking to, his mama said, once you know better, you got to do better. And so comment, give me feedback, interact with me. If you disagree, if you take Jordan Wells' position, tell me why I should. Because I'm making the argument you shouldn't, and then laying out my case. And so that's what we would do. We would have these conversations in the marketplace of ideas. And then when mature people are gathering together, the best argument would win. You see, I'm going to stand with people like a lion, like Vodi Bakum, not Jesse Jackson, not Martin Luther King, and not T.D. Jakes. These are three of the iconic religious leaders from the Negro community for the last 100 or so years. Give me a feedback if you disagree that there is somebody with more of an impact and a outreach, a visibility on a national level other than Vodi Bakum. I talked about this article, and you can see it was, you might not be able to see, but I found out this was released or published in 2019. And so it's been out there for a while, but now I'm just being made aware of it. And so the individual by the name, okay, it's pretty small, but you can, oh boy. David Garrow, The Troubling Legacy of Martin Luther King. And so it's 8 pages. And again, I don't know how, not even interested, but he got access to some of the transcripts. And the transcripts, they record they put in writing some of the audio recordings that the wiretaps received from conversations that Dr. King had. Again, I'm going to avoid, as a practice, really kind of doing tabloid type things, but this is so beyond the pale. And so I'm just going to direct you to the next to the last paragraph. It starts off, but it clearly wasn't King, because we can hear him saying to a man, Hoover, and that's J. Edgar Hoover, identified as Abernathy. The person who they think is King, again, King was definitely in the room, so it wasn't Abernathy. The person says, come on over here, you big black mother, you know the rest, and let me suck your, and you know the rest. So this is King, and this blew me away. And this is why it blew me away. One, no, sin is not sin. Brothers and sisters, and now I'm changing. So I forget I'm not in OBS. So sin is not sin. Some sins are greater. Not greater in penalty, and what I mean by that, all sin will send you to hell. But go back to what Jesus says, you have committed the greater offense. And so when you say greater, then there is a quantitative difference. You tied down to the cumin, but you left out these other things, these greater things. And so let's use David as an example. David committed adultery, yet that was not a abomination. God says homosexuality. And so when you look at, and so both of them are sins, and both will send anyone that is unrepentant to hell. Remember, God is so holy that he can't tolerate sin. That's Habakkuk. And so, and somebody's calling, but hey, there's a difference between homosexual sin and heterosexual sins. David committed heterosexual sin, but he was never accused of being engaged in homosexual sin. So it turns out that Martin Luther King was not only a womanizer, he was bisexual. He was involved in orgies. When King would go from town to town, they would hire prostitutes, and then he had girlfriends scattered all throughout the country. He had a house in Atlanta, Georgia, where he would meet his mistresses. And so again, I'm just doing this because people are telling you, and again, that's why I'm going to recommend you really check out Chad O. Jackson's 2 seasons. There's one episode of A. Philip Randolph, who I didn't know was a socialist, and John Lewis and so many others saying King is our moral leader. And J. Edgar Hoover who was a repulsive individual, but even repulsive people can speak truth. And King was a repulsive individual, but here's the difference. J. Edgar Hoover is not a preacher. J. Edgar Hoover, nobody was ever saying he was the moral leader. That's what A. Philip Randolph said. Those were his exact words right before he introduced King, when King spoke at the March on Washington, the great I Have a Dream speech. So, hey, brothers and sisters, I'm not going to make a practice of this, but I'm going to make an exception because of people like Jordan Wells. And that's icing on the cake. When King didn't believe in the virgin birth, King didn't believe in the deity of Christ, King didn't believe that miracles were possible. And brothers and sisters, that list is too long for me to go into. I've covered that in other videos. So got in late last night, and that's me touching down in Cape Town. Don't let the smile fool you. It is a toil flying 26 hours. I'm kind of embarrassed, but not really. One, I'm grateful that I'm still alive. There was a known scam taking place in Cape Town that I fell victim to. So I get home, I get to the airport last night. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. My luggage is not there. And so now I'm on my way back to my hotel, no luggage, tired, cranky, and just wasn't thinking. And they even told us about being careful of taking rides. And so the guy had a lanyard around his neck saying Uber. And he said, Uber. And so I said, okay. And I was kind of confused. I was like, hey, why don't I see this on the app? But then he took me to the Uber app and he showed me the Uber price. And I said, okay. And so we take off. I'm keeping my head on the swivel. And we get to the place and my credit card wasn't being accepted. And I finally used my debit card and it went through. And I'm just tracking my mind that he showed me a price. It seemed reasonable. I get to my hotel room and I look that charges were being denied on my credit card for the tune of $754 and some odd cent for a 15-minute ride from the airport. And so I was just a victim of the scam. And then my friend sent me this So it was known. They even told me, because I'm using a tour operator, and they told me, and I just got lazy. I got non-diligent, and I got taken. Thankfully, I quickly called my credit card company, and they are reversing the charges. But I got to go through that process. And so, hey, brothers and sisters, if I can help anybody avoid this this hiccup, then it's well served. So, in 2 days, 17 hours, 51 minutes, and 39 seconds, I'll be running the Cape Town Marathon. It is an amazing thing to be able to take a hot shower and change into some fresh clothes. I had been wearing that and some pants for 2 days. And so I was able to go to the store today, as I said, and get some new clothes. And so at least I'll have some fresh clothes to wear tomorrow. And we have a excursion, so we'll be leaving here about 10 o'clock, and I don't know when my luggage is going to get here, and so I got to have something to wear tomorrow. And so I'll quickly get out of this, and I'll be wearing this tomorrow to go on my tours. And I think we go to the expo as well. That's where you pick up all your running paraphernalia, and of course, you buy all your goodies, your running souvenirs. And so that's another picture of me. Hey, I pray that you found this clip God glorifying, man edifying, and if you did, you would join the Thinking Critically family, where I just seek to make an argument and destroying lofty opinions raised against the knowledge of God. And so, hey, brothers and sisters, be praying for me. Be praying for my sister Karen. I said I was going to try to remember some people at the end. Remember Nancy, you've seen a picture of her. My friend Karen is traveling cross country from the East Coast to Texas. She's an elderly sister, and so it's always dicey, anybody traveling for such a long distance, but most especially when it's a woman. Keep Karen in your prayers. And would you keep my sister girl Pam, who's been just dealing with various health issues, and she was talking, and I think she's even on her way today to urgent care. So keep sister girl Pam, one of my most loyal and dedicated supporters. And so I have benefited so much from the love, the support from sister girl Pam. So keep her in mind. In fact, she asked us to pray for one other person, if I can get access to it. Nancy, Harold Young, keep him in your prayers. Kevin Frontier. So I think I said it even halfway correct this time. Hey, it's a long day. I got another video to make the daily reckoning, and so again, I pray that you found this God glorifying and man edifying. Keep your hands to the plow, and until the next time, if there is a next time.